All right, thank you so much to the folks who are tuning in. My name is Manny Akutiel, and you are entering into Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. Manny's is a physical space that unfortunately had to shut down because of the coronavirus, which I'm sure you heard all about. But we thought just because the space is closed doesn't mean the work is over. So we have moved our programming online, and we are here today to have a conversation with a employment lawyer, Jamie Rudman, who is amazing and has graciously offered some of her time to answer your questions and to talk a little bit about what the state of employment is right now and what some folks' rights are, and also what measures are available to them. If you have a question for Jamie, you could type it into the Q&A box at any time. We're going to talk for 10, 15 minutes or so, then do maybe 10 minutes of questions, and then call it. So let's get right into it. Jamie, hello. How are you right now? You're in Oakland, correct?
I'm in Oakland in my home office, like so many people who used to have a place to go.
How are you coping with, first of all, how are you coping with shelter in place? How are you dealing with it?
You know, it's been interesting to be just my dog and me. We're both used to my traveling a lot, and I haven't been doing any travel, obviously. Nobody has. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, but I think I'm doing better than most people. I still have my job. And in fact, it's been really busy. So helping companies figure out how to treat their employees properly during this time has been keeping me really busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. How long have you been an employment lawyer for, Jamie?
Since 1993.
1993. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. That's a
yeah.
while.
So so a few minutes, about 27 years.
Wow, goodness gracious. So a historical question. How have you seen the rights of the employed evolve in your 27 years of practice?
Oh goodness.
In California, because you're
in California?
Sure,
well, that's easy. Every year there are more employment protections in California. So when I first started, the Americans with Disabilities Act was a brand new thing, 1991. Forced paid family leave, or not forced, but mandated paid leaves or mandated leaves were a new thing. So there have been so many changes. Apropos of the stuff we're dealing with now, there was no sick leave required by any state until just a few years ago. So every year we're seeing more and more protections, and most of those really are beneficial for employees. But others, I think, sometimes make it a little bit more difficult. And we're seeing a lot that make it a little bit more difficult right now.
Okay, so let's get into where we are now. So tell me a little bit about the numbers. How many folks have filed for unemployment nationwide and in California? If you can just kind of put this into historical context, I think that'll be important as well.
Sure.
Where are we right now as it relates to employment and unemployment in this country?
We're in a historic place and not a good one. So I'll focus on California because that's where we are. Yep. In California, before all this started, we had about 19 million people who were employed. In the last 3 weeks, just the last 3 weeks, we've had almost 2 million people in California apply for unemployment insurance. Just to put that into perspective, in the first week in March, right before all of this really got hot and heavy in California, just 48,000 people applied for unemployment insurance.
Holy moly, 48,000 to 2 million?
Yeah, so we went from 48,000 in a week to last week we had 925,000 people apply.
Wow, that is unbelievable. That's a 20-time increase.
Yes, it's heart-wrenching.
It's obviously hard to predict this thing, but do you feel like we're at the peak of that? Are you expecting more folks, or do you feel like, anyone that was going to apply for unemployment has done it already?
Oh no, I think there are a lot of people who haven't applied yet. And the system's not making it easy. I mean, the EDD is definitely which is the Employment Development Department. They're the agency that's in charge in California of processing unemployment insurance claims. They haven't even figured out yet how they're going to process claims, for example, for people who are not normally covered by unemployment insurance, in this case, gig workers, and folks who are independent contractors. Normally in California, those folks are not eligible for unemployment insurance, but now they are.
Why?
So the state hasn't even figured out how those people are going to apply yet. So
Are they-
I think we're going to see huge numbers for at least the next few weeks.
Are those folks covered because of the CARES Act or because of something the state's done?
The CARES Act.
Tell me about that.
So the CARES Act extended unemployment insurance in two ways. One was for folks who are already covered by their state's unemployment insurance plans, and California has one of the better ones. It added $600 a week, and which is huge given that normally it caps out in California at $450 a week.
Right.
And the CARES Act also added 13 more weeks of entitlement, which is great. So if it takes a little longer for this virus to go or for businesses to ramp up, then people will still be covered for a much longer period of time, which is fantastic. But the thing that the CARES Act did that was really revolutionary, that we'd never seen before, was to cover independent contractors and gig workers. And that's with a pandemic unemployment insurance. And that's what the states are really, and including California, really having to adjust to. And I'm hopeful that this is something that the state of California will choose to extend when this is over.
Mm-hmm. So that money, even though Californians applying for this, the money that is going to their bank account is federal money?
Yes.
Is it typically
in answer to your question, we don't know the logistics of that yet.
Still.
So, yeah. So normally it takes the state, I'm told, about 3 weeks to process an unemployment insurance claim. Given all of these additional benefits, which are fantastic, it's unclear how much longer it's going to take.
So even though the desire is to give Americans more money, it might actually take longer to process the claim because of it all?
That's my fear.
Oh no, that's
I know.
bad.
That is bad.
The headline today was, that the help was too little too late, and that like it's not, the money is not getting, even the $1,200. I mean, are you hearing
right.
$1,200 is hitting people's bank accounts yet or no?
I have not heard of it hitting people's bank accounts. And I want to point out that it's only going to hit people's bank accounts if they filed tax returns.
For 2019.
So, right.
Not
for last year. And so a lot of people haven't even filed their taxes yet. And then there's a whole group of people, really our lowest compensated, our lowest paid workers in this country, who are exempt from filing tax returns at all.
Right.
And there are agencies that are trying to help them get that money. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a website. It's I have to look at this, CalEITC #4ME.
CalEITC 4ME.
Yes. So that is an organization that is trying to help folks get stimulus checks if they're exempted from filing tax returns.
Got it. We'll send this along to the folks who are tuning in and afterwards. How can people get the $600 per week? What advice would you give to someone who's unemployed that's living, paycheck to paycheck and now has
of course.
How can they access this?
Okay, so this is not really my lawyer advice. This is my life advice. Mm-hmm. When you're eligible for something, anything, an insurance payout, a government payout, get in line as quickly as possible and get as much help as possible. So get in your application for unemployment insurance immediately. Mm-hmm. And if the application's not ready yet because you're a gig worker and they haven't figured out yet in California how to deal with that, look every single day. This is your job now, if you're unemployed, mm-hmm. is to find a way to get your money and to get in that line as quickly as humanly possible. Look for resources. If you lived or worked in San Francisco, you're a little bit more fortunate than a lot of other workers because the San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development has a ton of resources for you. Go look there. Look everywhere for resources. Mm-hmm. In normal times, California unemployment insurance benefits are doled out and then managed by these neighborhood one-stop centers. Mm-hmm. And I actually looked to see if there were any near me here in Oakland, and there were 26 of them within 25 miles of my house.
And what are they called?
They're called one-stop centers. So to get to them, you want to go to careeronestop.org and put in your zip code.
Okay.
So in normal times, what these agencies do, and a lot of people are going to have had experience with them before, is when you're on unemployment insurance, you go to a one-stop center to look for another job. Because a normal condition of unemployment insurance is that you have to actively be looking for another job. Obviously, that's not as realistic right now.
Right.
So the one-stop center staff is there to help folks look for other jobs, to retrain, and so forth. Now, they have a different focus since there aren't a lot of jobs for them to direct people to, and they are helping people to apply for benefits. So if I were applying for benefits right now, or say a family member is applying for benefits right now, and I've had these conversations, I would direct them to the one-stop centers.
Got it. So look up your one-stop center in your community, physically go to them, even with shelter.
No, they're closed, but make an appointment over the phone to have a conversation with them.
What about an employer like myself? You know, I've applied for, I've been told by Chase that I just need to wait now. You know, a lot of people haven't even gotten their application in. I got my application in by pushing for it, and now the bank the bank has said to me, back off, calm down. We'll get to you when we get to your application. What advice would you give a small business owner like myself who, you know, desperately needs this PPP in order to open up again, basically?
Well, I agree with half of the advice that you got. I agree with the calm down part, because it's not going to do you any good to not be calm. I wouldn't back off so much. Mm-hmm. I would continue to advocate for myself and for my business. Mm-hmm. And if that means bugging people, then bug people.
Like the banker at Chase or other people?
I'd work with your banker.
I feel so bad for my banker. He's complaining to me.
Well, that's good. That's good. Build a personal relationship with him. And maybe he'll want to put you to the front of the line.
He's a Trump supporter.
He's a Trump supporter?
Yeah, a big one.
Oh.
It's
well, then maybe you can convert him.
That's what I'm trying to do. What about rehiring? So let's say a small business owner gets a disaster relief loan or a payment protection plan loan, and wants to use that to pay their staff, or is able to reopen. What would you say is the best process to bring an employee back on? And is it up to the employer to then let the EDD know that they've been rehired and then take them off of EDD?
Okay, so bunch of different questions hidden in there. So the first thing is, if you're going to bring people back to work, obviously we have to comply with whatever the stay-at-home orders are. So it depends on how you're bringing them back to work. Another option, instead of bringing them back to work, if there's no work but you've got the money and you want to pass that along to your employees, is to bring them back into your employment and put them on a paid leave.
Oh, how does that work?
So you can bring them back and then put them on that CARES Act paid leave if you're a small business owner, such as yourself. Now, the key to doing that would be to do it consistently. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to bring some people back, you need to be consistent in who you bring back or who you offer to bring back, so that you don't get hit with a discrimination claim for just cherry picking your favorites, right? Okay. So always important to be really consistent in who you bring back. And it may be that you bring people back by job category and so forth. So, but that would be a great way to bring people back. It was unclear in the beginning if the CARES Act leave applied when folks were forced to stay at home because of a SIP order, a stay-in-place order like ours. It's still kind of unclear, but the regulations that the Department of Labor hurried through say that that being on a sick order is a reason for being able to take leave.
I guess that's just a follow-up question on that. But also before I get to my follow-up question, for the folks who've tuned in, I see Michael, Scott, Ellie, Christina, Arthur, and Sherry. If you have questions for Jamie, she is an employment lawyer. You can type your questions in now into the Q&A box and I will ask them. So if you have specific questions, Scott, Sherry, Michael, Ellie, Christina, and Arthur, go ahead and ask them in the Q&A box. So I heard that if I get money from the PPP program, I have to use that money, 75% of it, on payroll within 8 weeks for it to be forgivable.
That's right.
So how does that, what if San Francisco doesn't reopen within 8 weeks of after I get it? And also, I'm allowed to prepay people's payroll. Let's say it opens up June 1st, which is less than 8 weeks. Can I give them like a month's worth of salary versus 2 weeks to kind of front load it?
Unfortunately, no.
No.
So I know, this is when we were talking about employment rights earlier, and I said sometimes the laws put in place to protect employees hurt them. This is one of them.
But
so
my payroll practices so that I pay monthly versus biweekly?
You can change your payroll practices, but no, only for salaried employees can you pay monthly.
Boom. Shit.
Exactly. That said, you can put people on leave. You can, if you're thinking about giving people end of year bonuses, you can do them early. You can do them as like re-signing bonuses to lure people back when the time to come back. But you have mostly hourly workers, right?
Yes.
So for hourly workers, you have to pay them for the time worked.
So would you say maybe it actually strategically it makes sense to wait to apply for a PPP until the next round of stimulus so that you're not stuck with a loan that's not going to be forgivable because you can't use it for payroll?
Well, maybe, but the question is what's going to be in that next round of stimulus? We just don't know.
Are you hearing that maybe Congress will extend that 8 weeks to like 24 weeks or something?
I think that's going to follow the health orders.
Got it. I'm trying to think if there's any, as an employer, I have one more question. Is there legalese about how to re-employ people that you had to let go before all this? Is there a proper way legally to do it?
In terms of language for that, no, there's nothing special that you have to do. So in terms of reporting to the EDD, when your folks apply for unemployment insurance, you're going to get some forms to fill out, and they'll send you the forms that you need to send back for that. So you'll probably start, as an employer, you'll probably start seeing those come in.
I haven't gotten them, and I'm so surprised. I'm like, where am I?
I know.
EDD paperwork. I want my employees to get on EDD.
Right. Well, that's a reflection of the backlog, I think, Fanny, more than anything else. I mean, some states are so backlogged that they are seeking and so antiquated in their systems that I heard today, and this was crazy to me, that New Jersey is seeking to hire computer programmers who know the ancient computer language that they originally programmed their system in, because they can't figure out how to expand it to deal with the volume.
Oh my God.
Which is just so sad. Which is so sad.
So I know it's against the law to tell your employees what to fill out or to instruct them to apply for unemployment, right? You're supposed to give them the option, but you're not supposed to like tell them what to do. Is it also against the law to like advocate on their behalf to the EDD and like call the EDD and be like, yo, my employees need unemployment, come on, help me out? Are you allowed?
I don't think that would necessarily help at the EDD level. I think having the employees advocate for themselves would help, and directing them towards resources would be the most helpful thing. Most of the time, I mean, it's just such a funny question in a sense, because in normal times, employers don't want to push for that because it costs them more in changing their tax rate if tons of employees apply. Which I think is a big question. You know, is California going to give employers some relief on changing their tax rates because a lot of employees applied for unemployment insurance? I think we should get a grace period for this time. So we'll see what happens with that. I think there's going to be a lot of changes to that program and a lot of changes to the way people work when all this is done.
Got it. Michael wants to know if you can put yourself on payroll, I guess, as an owner.
As an owner, yeah, absolutely. And there's some really good arguments for doing that. And there's some difficult arguments for doing that. So, I mean, that's something where you'd want to talk to your tax advisor. People who provide professional services have long wanted to be independent contractors as opposed to employees, or to be sole proprietors, because there's some tax benefits to that. The thing is, the taxes that you're not paying if you're not on payroll as an owner are the taxes that fund unemployment insurance and disability insurance and California paid family leave. Right. So that's why independent contractors aren't eligible for those benefits, because they haven't paid for them.
But now they are eligible.
Now they are eligible because the federal government extended it.
But owners.
Yeah. So this is just a temporary moment in time when they're eligible for it. The question is, are people going to want to work differently when this is over? Because they're seeing the real negatives about being an independent contractor.
Scott has questions re ADEA with regards to age profile of laid off employees. Did you mean ADA or ADA?
He means the ADEA, which protects older workers.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not quite sure what his question is, but
I'm going to type in the specific question, and I'm happy to ask it.
Yeah.
Arthur would like you to repeat the helpful websites mentioned. There were two. There was the one.
Sure.
And
sure. So for help getting stimulus checks, go to CalEITC4ME.com. And for unemployment insurance application help, go to career1stop.org.
Okay, and then Arthur, I'm sending this to you in a message, okay? And I think everyone can see it. Folks, if you go to the answered section for Q&A, and operator, if you could put the join it link in Q&A, that would be great as well. If you go to answered, you will see the two links that Jamie mentioned. And Scott, we're still waiting on your specific questions with regards to ADEA.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about age discrimination in general. And, you know, I usually represent employers. And I would say the vast majority of the cases that I see that are filed against employers these days are about one of two things, either disability discrimination or age discrimination. Mm-hmm. And age discrimination, the laws surrounding age discrimination have not been suspended during this pandemic. So that's one of the reasons, like I mentioned, why you don't cherry pick who you give benefits to or cherry pick who you bring back. You have to have a good reason for why. Okay, operator, if you could bring Scott in. Scott, just FYI, we only have like 2 or 3 minutes, so I know your question is lengthy, but if you can try to keep it to just 1 or 2 minutes, that'd be great, because we do have to end this in about 4 minutes. So my operator is going to bring you in, Scott, so you can ask your question directly to Jamie. Scott, are you in? Can you hear? I don't see you. Operator? Scott Lehman.
Yeah.
Of the Lehman and Levin brothers. Oi.
There he is.
Are you doing? Is he in?
I'm here.
There he is.
Yeah, I just had to unmute. Sorry. So my question is, so I was recently laid off, and when they lay you off now, they give you an age profile of the people that were laid off. And when I look at it, they actually also break it down by people who are offered severance. Now, I haven't signed my severance yet because I have a particular question. When I look at the profile of the people who aren't getting the offer for the separation, and I look at their ages, I know for a fact that a lot of these younger folks are sitting overseas. how does that figure into the calculus for ADEA? Is that allowed under this notion of position elimination? In other words, it looks like a covering action. It's basically take a bunch of folks who are sitting overseas who maybe don't come under the umbrella of the ADEA, lay them off so that it looks like when you lay off your older, more expensive employees, it's okay.
Right. So you're exactly right that laying off more expensive employees can be age discrimination, depending upon the circumstances. Mm-hmm. The notice that you're talking about is a WARN Act notice, which is when larger employers lay off groups of employees or close facilities, they're required to give a notice to the city. The other thing, or to the city and to some other organizations. I'm not sure if what you're looking at is that, or if what you're looking at is attached to a group severance agreement. I'm not going to look at it. But so it may be that it's attached to a group severance agreement where there's also these age disclosures. And the question, this is one of the questions for the ages in employment law, is how big is the comparative group? If you think it's suspicious, then it probably makes some sense for you to talk to an employment lawyer who specializes in representing employees and have them look at the specific circumstances.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Of course.
Appreciate it. And then operator, if we can put Scott back into the ether, that would be great. Not that we don't want you to be here, but you get the idea. Operator. And then Michael has a clarification for their question.
Yes.
The payroll question, which is, this question was about putting himself on payroll. If he is, I assume it's a he, they, an S Corp and currently have 4 employees on payroll, can they pay themselves through the payroll company instead, since their business is ordered to remain closed and they're doing all the administrative work from home?
The answer to that is it really depends. They should talk to their payroll company and talk to their lawyer about it, because it's not that clear cut to me from the facts. It would depend upon what state they're in and so forth. But if they want, and they should really think through the question of whether they want to be an employee and talk to their accountant about that before doing it just for purposes of this pandemic, because that is a much bigger question.
So Jamie, are you taking clients right now or no? Are you all full up?
Oh, sure. I'm taking clients, but business clients.
Yeah. Okay. So no individual clients, just companies.
No,
okay.
No, just companies.
Well, if folks want to reach you, what's the best way to reach you if they're a business owner or business?
Sure. The best way for a business owner to reach me is to email me. Okay. And my email address is Rudman, RUDMAN, @Sanchez-Amador.com.
That's Amador, OMIDOR?
AMADOR.
AMADOR. Got it. And we'll also put that in the comments.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much to the folks who've tuned in. If you go to the answered section, there'll be a little link to become a sponsor of Manny's, my small business. Oh, there isn't. Well, there will be very momentarily, and you can go into the answered section, or you can look at my screen, and I'll put it up in the back. There it is. joinit.org/o/Manny's. If you're willing to make a donation or become a sponsor, I would deeply appreciate it. Now it's in the answered section. Great. Thank you very much, operator. So the answered sections of the Q&A or up above my head, joinit.org/o/Manny's. I can vouch for Jamie. She's amazing. She's incredible. She's got a very steady hand, and it's been wonderful getting to know you and also seeing you at the Manny's events. I'd also like to thank my team over here to my right, Jupiter, Ram, and Sam, for helping make all these events possible. We really appreciate it. Jamie, have a great rest of your evening and enjoy the golden hour, all right?
Thanks, you too, Manny.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.